Hi there. Welcome to Tea with the Druid 130, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. Eimear Burke here, hosting Tea with the Druid tonight. So just let me know that you're here. Hi, Sasha from Arizona. Welcome. I'll just wait for a few more people to arrive. Loads. There's people from Ohio, Tricia, Mary Meet, Brian from Michigan, Lynn. Hi, Mervyn from Skegness, Nova Scotia, Washington. They're flying now. Bristol, Scotland. Lovely. Switzerland. Wonderful to see you all. My apologies for last week. It was not my internet connection, but it was my laptop. So I have since got a new one, and I am now learning how to navigate with Mac. So I'll just see how great. Norwich. Hi, Kate. Greetings from Portugal. Wonderful. This is so reassuring to see the names. Anyway, so tonight what I'm going to do is tell you another story. And this is a story about Dian Cécht, one of the gods of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And the Tuatha Dé Danann were that tribe of people that means the tribe of Danu. Danu was the great mother goddess of the Celts, actually, Ireland here, but also throughout Europe. And the Tuatha Dé Danann were the people who occupied the island of Ireland before the Milesians or the Celts came. And so, as I said, Dian Cécht was one of the gods. He was the god of healing. And he is known as the father of medicine in Ireland. And he was a very magical and powerful healer and very, very well respected. And Dian Cécht, the meaning of his name, Dian means swift. And Cécht has a number of meanings. One is power, and the other is traveling. So the god of healing, that notion of him traveling swiftly to heal the people to heal his people. Now, when the Tuatha Dé Danann came to Ireland first, there were also already a tribe of people here called the Firbolg. So there was a battle between them called the First Battle of Moytura. And before the Battle of Moytura, in preparation for the battle, Dian Cécht, with his son Miach and his daughter Arme, they made a well in Acha Ovloch, the field of the apple tree, close to the battlefield at Moytura. And they chanted spells and incantations into that well. And as Dian Cécht and Miach and Arma stood over the well, Dian Cécht made this promise that all who were injured in the battle, except those who were beheaded or whose brain membrane or spinal cord were severed, if they were placed in the well would heal them, and they would be healed by Dian Cécht's hands. Now, this well was known by two names. One was Tubersláine, or the well of healing, or the well of health. And the other one, which I love, was Loch Liva, the lake of herbs, because Dian Cécht had collected many, many herbs from Lusma, which means the plain of the herbs, nearby Moytura, and placed them all into the well. And so it was, during the battle, all of the injured warriors were placed in the well, and they emerged healed and whole again. And even those who had been fatally wounded, when they were placed in the well, it is said, they rose up, sleek and sound, without blemish, spot, or hurt on visage or noble body. And so, during the Battle of Moytura, Nuada, the king of the Tuatha Dé Danann, was injured and lost his hand. And although it wasn't a fatal injury, it was bad news for Nuada because it meant he could no longer rule as king. For it was ruled that only a person without blemish could rule as king. But now Dian Cécht, being such a skilled healer, fashioned quickly a silver hand and attached it to Nuada's arm. And it is said that it had the vigor of every hand in it. And that allowed Nuada to rule again as king. And that is how he got his name, Nuada Argath Love, Nuada of the silver hand. Now, Miach, Dian Cécht's son, was also a very skilled healer. And he felt that his king shouldn't have a silver hand, but should have his own hand back. So using the magic of his learning, he went looking for Nuada's hand, and he searched on the battlefield and he found it. And he kept Nuada's hand with him for 3 times 3 nights and days. For 3 nights and 3 days, he held Nuada's hand to his side until the skin began to grow back again. And then for another 3 nights and 3 days, he held Nuada's hand to his breast until it became whole and healed. And then he called Nuada to him and attached the healed hand to his arm and held it until they became one. And Nuada was whole and healed once more. And it is said that so strong was the healed hand that it could catch wisps of burnt bulrushes with it. Miach was very happy with a job well done. And of course, so was Nuada, to have his own hand back. But one person who was not happy, and that was Dian Cécht. He flew into a jealous rage. How dare his son upstage him and make him look bad? After all he had taught him, after all he had done for his son, for him to treat him in this way. And it went round and round in his head, angry and raging. And he picked up his shiny sword and he went to confront Miach. And he did. How dare you, he said. How dare you upstage me? How dare you show me up? How dare you do this to me? After all I've given you, my knowledge, my skills. And Miach looked his father in the eye and he said, Father, I have done only what it is you taught me. What I have done was not to you. It was to and for our king, Nuada. I knew I could heal his hand, and that is what I had to do, and that is what I did. I had no wish to disrespect you, but this is a tribute to your healing, or your teaching of me in the arts of healing. Dian Cécht was having none of this. He couldn't be mollified. He picked up his sword and struck at Miach, cutting him here, a deep wound. But Miach, being the powerful healer that he was, put his hand on his neck, and instantly the wound was healed. But Dian Cécht was not to be deterred, and he lashed out again at Miach and cut him on this side, a wound even deeper. But Miach once again put his hand on his neck and he healed himself. And Dian Cécht was still in such a rage. He struck a third blow at Miach and cut him here right down to the bone. Still, Miach placed his hand on the wound and he was healed. But Dian Cécht was not giving up. And he struck a fourth blow at Miach, cleaving his brain in two. And there he fell on the land, dead. And when Dian Cécht saw his son split in two, lying dead on the ground. He felt such remorse and regret and grief, and he wept and wailed, sorry at what he had done to his son, at the madness of it. And at the grave, at the funeral, Dian Cécht made a prophecy, and he said, "If Miach be no more, then Arma shall remain." Now, Arma loved Miach dearly. They were very, very close. It was like they were more than brother and sister. They were the best of friends, and they shared each other's knowledge of healing. And she was bereft, grief-stricken at the loss of her brother and her best friend. And she would visit Miach's grave every day. And she would cry and talk to him. And her tears would drop and land on the soil. And on the third day, she noticed little shoots peeping up through the ground in the shape of a person. She realized that Miach was communicating with her from the other side. He was teaching her all he knew about herbs. And after 3 more days, the grave was full of herbs in the outline of a human form. 365 herbs were growing on that grave. 365. One for every joint and sinew. One for every day of the year. One for every illness in the world. So Arma was so pleased. She took her cloak off and she laid it down on the ground and carefully began to pick the herbs from the grave and lay them out in the same format that was on the grave itself. And she began to study the herbs, to know their name, to recognize them, and to understand their properties. And she was so engrossed in what she was doing, she never noticed her father coming towards the grave. Now, Dian Cécht, still grieving over the loss of his son and over his own stupidity, came to pay his respects to his son and to beg forgiveness. But as soon as he laid eyes on his daughter, he recognized immediately what she was doing. He hadn't brought a sword with him. He wasn't going to kill her. He wasn't going to kill 2 children. But all thoughts of grief, remorse, repentance were gone to be replaced by his jealous rage again. And he ran up to where Arma was sitting at the grave, picked up the cloak, shook it out, and scattered the herbs to the 4 quarters. He was not going to be upstaged by his daughter. It was bad enough what his son had done. He could see no reason, but he laid not a hand on his daughter. He took one look at her, turned away, angry but glad that she had been foiled. Arma was broken-hearted, devastated at the loss of those herbs, and she quickly ran around and tried to gather as many of them as she could, holding in her memory the herbs that she could recognize and the bit of knowledge she had. And she gathered many, but she didn't manage to gather all 365 herbs. And so today, that is why we don't know the properties of all the herbs, nor do we have a cure for all illnesses. But Dian Cécht's prophecy still holds. If Miach be not, Arma still remains. And to this day, Arma is the patroness of herbalists in Ireland. So, another meaning of the name Dian Cécht. Well, Cécht is another word for plough. It seems strange. Where does the god of healing How does that match with a swift plough? And it's like this. In Old Irish, there was no distinction between a vegetable, a plant, and a healing herb. And it was said that all you needed to do to be healthy was to grow leeks and celery in your garden. So this gives us the notion of food as medicine. And I studied herbalism for 4 years. And the approach used was the wisdom way, as opposed to the heroic way. The heroic way is, for example, you have antibiotics and chemotherapy. The wisdom way is about focusing on nutrifying the body with herbs so that the body and the mind can restore themselves. And the first line of treatment, the basis of all herbal remedies from the wisdom way, is nutrient herbs. And for example, 2 common ones in this part of the world, I know there are people from all over the world, are nettles and dandelion. And they are common weeds and very safe to take, with no known side effects, and that there are no contraindications when taking them with other medicines. And this lockdown has given me an opportunity to go back to my herbs. I'd kind of neglected them because I was so busy and I was traveling a lot. And I've spent evenings going around foraging in my garden. It's a wild garden. I'm not a very tidy person. And I have been foraging for food and also herbs to make tea. And it is said that the herb you need to keep healthy grows near where you are. And I have a friend who is a member of the order who swears by nettle, particularly nettle seeds. And the nettles in Ireland are beginning to come into seed. And she has a very stressful job, and she's been working from home during the pandemic. And she's been able to now, in these last 2 weeks, to go out to the nettles, pick the seeds and rub them between her finger and thumb to get rid of little insects and take them. And she swears that those nettle seeds are better at restoring her energy than any of the commercial energy drinks that she would normally have at work. So what I have here, you can see, I've I have rose and I have lemon balm. Now, rose is scented. Any rose that is scented has healing essential oils. Lemon balm is a calming nervine. And these are perfect for me tonight when I'm trying out my new technology again, and it's working so far. And here's my tea, lemon balm and rose. And as Druids, there is, in the ovate strand, we work with herbs. But even if you're not an ovate, it doesn't matter, that we have that strong nature connection. And isn't it wonderful to think that the plant we need grows near us someplace? And it may be a plant that you can actually take physically, or it may be a plant that you work with energetically. There are some plants that are not safe to take, like yew, for example, is poisonous. Now, having said that, heroically, it's used in the treatment of cancer. But if we were going with the wisdom way, we would work with it metaphysically. So I invite you during this time of lockdown to go out to wherever you are, the park, and notice what plants are there. It might be on the side of the road. It might be in your own garden if you have one. Or what is already growing, maybe on a window box. Is that the herb you need? And to be able to communicate with it and find out what it has to teach you. I'm conscious that we're coming out of time, so if we had more time, if I hadn't gone on so long with my story, we could have done a meditation on this. But I invite you to go foraging. You may not even know, you may be, I suppose, anxious about, is this plant safe to eat? I don't recognize it. If it calls you, you can pick it, work with it. You don't have to ingest it, but working with it metaphysically. There are lots of books on foraging and food for free, and obviously depending on where you live in the world. So I'm interested to know what herbs call you. What are important to you in your landscape? I see somebody just identified wild lemon balm on my garden this morning. Lovely. Rose petals, amazing the difference they taste. Fabulous. I was just checking up on roses. What does it say? It cures all fluxes, whatever a flux is, but I think it sounds great. It's great to strengthen the heart, the stomach, but even the scent of plants. I was walking along the road last night, and the smell of honeysuckle. Now, that's not safe to take, but as soon as I get that smell, it's like I get uplifted. It cheers me up. So there's a magic in herbs we may not know because of what Dian Cécht did. All the properties of herbs. But as Druids, we can work with them magically. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So I'm growing a chamomile log. Beautiful. Chamomile is a wonderful calming herb as well. Great for sleep and also great for skin. Just looking for more. Ash and oak trees. Lovely. Herb Robert, mugwort. Wonderful. Borage. Borage is a great stress reliever. Oregano. Tarragon. Jojoba, I see. Creosote, not where I am, but it's wonderful that it's about finding watermint. Lovely. That's in Northwest Oregon. Elderflowers, and of course the elderflowers are in bloom now. And just when I get the perfume, it's exquisite. Last week I made elderflower fritters, and you can make. I see plantain is brilliant. Plantain you can eat. It's great for drawing out foreign bodies. Basil, I see it. St. John's wort, that's coming into flower. I have it in my polytunnel. It's a wonderful herb. Sage, absolutely. I love how nature supplies. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Basil for bathing, wonderful. Apple mint tea. Mullein, great herb too. So it's wonderful to see your comments and how connected we can be with them, even though we may not be trained herbalists. But as Druids, we can engage with them and maybe learn more. You can learn stuff from books, but it's, at the beginning of the Bardic Grade, we talk about the book of nature, and it's about learning from nature and how these herbs can teach us so much. Well, I think that's all for now. It's been lovely to have you join me, and I will go and finish my rose and lemon balm tea, and I'm so glad that this went smoothly. I look forward to reading your comments and to see you all next week for more Tea with the Druid. So, slán go fóill, goodbye for now.